Hello and welcome to the second part of my video project, Slope Stabilization with gabions. Installation of an irrigation system and design of the new raised bed on the slope. In the first part of this video project, I have already shown how I have prepared my irrigation system. The distributor has been assembled. The box was placed into the ground and the drip hose was already connected. Today, I will install the drip hose, lay out along the plants and protect the whole thing with a weed control fabric and special. Lay out the honeycomb panels. These are intended to protect the slope from sliding during heavy rainfall. If you want to know how I go about it, stay tuned. It's right now about to start. This small slope was eroded during heavy rainfall. For this reason, I have built a gabion wall above and below, installed to catch the slope. The plants were newly arranged and should be irrigated in the future using a drip hose. The water connection, electrical conduit, and the distributor have already been installed. You can find the video like this below in the description or click the info button in the top right. I will put the parts used back in the description below so that you can replicate the whole thing without any problems. Today, the drip hose is to be installed. I chose a model from Rainbird. As you can see, the drip hose has outlets every 30 centimeters through a small hole from which the water then slowly drips out. What is special about this hose is that a metal plate is incorporated into this hole, specifically a copper plate. This is intended to prevent roots grow from the plants into the hose and then this in. Over time, it gets clogged. The drip hose I used has a length of 25 meters. It can be cut freely between the holes. To make it easier for me to work with the drip hose, I laid it out in the sun to make it soft and flexible. The water supply is provided. About my distributor, I assembled this myself with the components from Rainbird or the solenoid valve from Hunter. The automatic control will take over later. My irrigation computer that waters the raised bed as needed. The laying of the hose is done carefully and with precision in 3 rows, and precisely above, in the middle, and below these plants. For this, I will use to begin, carefully thread the hose through the designated area, ensuring it is properly aligned, and then securely fasten it in place to prevent any movement. Such angle pieces are suitable for laying tight curves. These are simply inserted into the drip hose, allowing you to lay tight curves without any problems. I personally try to address such weaknesses, to avoid the angles that these do provide, and instead lay out larger arcs without the hose being kinked, ensuring that the hose does not get tangled or twisted while being used. I will lay a weed control fabric over the drip hose, which is additionally weighted down. This ensures that the hose initially maintains its position. I will carefully drive in earth anchors to securely and additionally secure everything. So that the water is distributed evenly in the drip hose and at the end in the same way. If a lot drips out like at the beginning, I will lay the whole thing out as a ring. This means that I actually have to cut the hose in some places and I will branch off using a T-piece. With a utility knife, I can cut the drip hose, cut between the drip holes at each point and insert the T-piece. To seal the hose, you have several options. The simplest and the most cost-effective option is to simply kink the hose and to secure it with a cable tie. The whole thing is tight and holds. Alternatively, you can of course also use these plugs and simply insert these like into the ends. It is also possible to use the associated systems from Rainbird. I will just do that in that case. A coupling ring, such as the one used in this setup, is essential for securely attaching the adapter. Next, this end piece is attached. Everything is simply screwed together. During the work, I have now decided to lay a drip hose above and below the two plants. So it has now actually turned out to be a total of 4 pieces. I have secured the drip hose near the plants so that the water in can drip out in close proximity. Now it is time to test the whole system and, if necessary, to adjust the hose in order to ideally position the drip holes in the most effective manner. After the air has been pressed out of the pipes and the drip hose, one can see the position of the drip holes very clearly. I will adjust the hose further to optimize the drip holes to position the plants. Subsequently, the weed control fabric can be laid out. In contrast to the drip hose at my hedge, I do not use a pressure reducer with this drip hose. The hose can withstand a pressure of 4 bar and my valve has its own flow regulation. But you definitely need to be careful with these connectors. If they don't hold properly, then everything will tear apart. I have reduced the flow rate on my Hunter solenoid valve to the minimum. The system has been running for 5 minutes without any problems. I will let it sit for another 30 minutes with the pressure on the line to see if all the fittings hold and if all the connections are tight. In the next step, I will proceed to carefully lay out the durable and effective weed control fabric. For the weed control fabric, I have chosen a material with 150 G Metall. The fabric comes on a metric roll with a length of 50 meters, totaling 50 metois. I will now lay the fabric only in the lower area and then let the upper area just slightly overlap. I laid out 2x6 meters of weed control fabric. The plants were left out, and the fabric is very carefully secured with stones to prevent the wind from blowing it away. Now the honeycomb panels arrive. The honeycombs have been delivered in continuous composite and must first be cut to size and then also to be carefully laid out throughout the plants on the area. Since my slope is already planted, I cannot lay out the honeycomb grid here. I therefore carefully stretched it out on a meadow beforehand. I am now marking the position of the plants and cutting out from the cells. Afterwards, the honeycomb fabric will be laid out on the slope. The honeycomb panels were carefully laid out between the plants. With the ground anchors, I was able to secure everything. Now, piece by piece, the gravel is being filled in to ensure the absolutely necessary stabilization. The first 3 honeycomb grids are slightly finished. So far, I have poured nearly 200 liters of granite gravel into the honeycomb grids. I must admit that I was initially a bit skeptical about whether it would really work. In the meantime, I am taken with this story because I really like it a lot and it also appears to be very stable. I will now cut the last honeycomb grid panels and also lay them out here on the slope. Approximately 2 days later, I processed a total of another ton of granite gravel. The entire structure is protected from slipping during rain by the honeycomb grid beneath the granite gravel. Today I will continue laying the weed control fabric on the right side, and there also to spread the granite gravel to complete the hole, to visually complete my driveway in order. it is done. Also the right half of this slope. This raised bed is now protected by the weed control fabric and the gravel. In some places I have left the weed control fabric slightly overhanging. The entire area directly behind these gabions, these stone baskets, I will set a few more things. After the first winter, I will then trim the overhangs. Simply cut the utility knife. I proceed in exactly the same way with the honeycomb grids. Some of these are still sticking out. I will cut these open first, or cut off when the hand has finally settled. This formerly wild and constantly eroding slope during rain and storms has now been secured by me. Through a gabion wall in the lower area, the soil was held in place or stabilized. The plants will receive moisture via an automatic irrigation system. I installed the irrigation system at the same time. After the coming winter, when the slope or the soil is finally having completed, I will make the remaining finishing touches and, for example, cut off the black edges of the weed control fabric. The interplay of plants and gravel on this small slope offers, in my view, the optimal combination to keep this entire area low maintenance and yet for animals and the environment, as well as for residents and guests, to provide a respectable environment. Now I can focus on my other projects. Construction sites are a concern because here I am finished. If you want to know which projects are now on the agenda, to find out which projects I will be working on in the future, subscribe to my channel, press the bell so you won't miss any of my future videos. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.